ask you a question. When is the last time you learned something and then asked yourself where you got it from? Not just that you learned it, but where, from who, and whether that person actually knew what they were talking about. Most people never ask that. They just absorb. They hear something, they file it away, and then they start making decisions based on it, especially if you find that person to already be credible, right? This could be someone you look up to. This can be a family member. This could be maybe someone you look up to on the block. And that right there is one of the most expensive habits a person can have. Not expensive like a bag or a car, right? Like we're not talking about monetary expensive. Expensive like years, right? Like in time. Time is money. So expensive like missed opportunities, money you could have made or saved or protected but didn't because you were working off the wrong information or non-credible information or information that may have been provided from an intentional space or from a good intention space. Um, but just that person didn't really have the experiences that you think that person really had, right? Like you see a lot of facades happening within our communities. You see a lot of people speaking on things that they may not be the most credible to speak on, or, they may not have the most knowledge to speak upon that topic. So this is what today is about. Welcome to Master Your Fin Life. I am Lexi Victoria, and let's get into it. I grew up in the Bronx, not the cute part people post about on Instagram, sober now, like sober wasn't a thing growing up. The part where you figure things out because you have to. And the people around me were doing their best, but nobody sat me down and explained money. Nobody explained credit or investing or how careers actually worked or what to do when you finally start making real money. So I learned the way a lot of us learn from people around me, from what I saw, from what I heard. And some of it was good and some of it was flat out wrong, but it was able to get me to this point. And one thing I always talk about with my partner is that I'm never going to shoot down what anyone tells me because I know it's coming from a space of wisdom and experience to some extent. So I don't always assume that what someone's telling me is like, oh, this person doesn't want to see me be successful, or this person, like, all those negative things that we can fall into. I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm going to take it in, right? I'm gonna know what you said. And maybe I already have done my own research on it. So maybe I can rule out some of the things you already said, or maybe it's some things that never came up that I'm going to look a little bit more into. But I'm always going to do my own research and try to find the most credible person, credentialed person, or try my best to be able to put the pieces together to the best of my capability. Now, here's the thing. I went and got a master's degree. Yay. I have been working in financial services for years. I've held 3 jobs at the same time at some points, while going to school, while networking, while building businesses on the side, while also being a mother, which is probably arguably the most important job, that I have and my most favorite. But I've done the work nonetheless. And even with all of that, I still had to go back and unlearn some things. And I'm also forever learning. I'm always going to continuously learn because times are changing always, right? Times are always evolving. And things that I thought were just facts at some point in time, things I had been carrying for years, things nobody corrected because nobody around me knew that they were wrong either. I'm sitting here today as a financial educator and as a consultant, and now, thank God, your podcast host, someone who works with real clients and real families and real people trying to build something. And I see this pattern all the time. Smart people, hardworking people, people who care, operating on information that was never solid to begin with. For instance, I spoke with this young lady that had property and she was, building a real successful real estate portfolio, but she was also still working and trying to build her marketing business. And we were talking about like life insurance and things of that nature. And she went back to her parents, and her parents were like, you don't need that right now. Like, it's too early. Like, this person is just trying to scam you. And, I was just like, this young lady already has a decent real estate portfolio, which is something that her parents were not privy to. So when we're thinking about what success looks like now that you're stepping into waters that you kind of already outgrown your parents at that point, you have to be willing to take other information. And it maybe wasn't the right time for her, right? I'm not saying I'm all knowing. And I don't ever take it personally when we're having those types of conversations, but the people that you trust the most may not be privy to what is actually needed for the future self. What's good for you in this progression stage. And this is why I'm talking about this, because nobody told us we needed to audit what we think, what we know, and we needed someone to. So I want to get into the actual disservice, right? Everybody knows you should keep learning, and this is not news. Stay curious, never stop growing, like we've heard it. But that is not what I'm really talking about. The disservice I'm talking about is like more specific. Is thinking you are learning when you are actually just consuming. If you're sitting on the block, talking to your friends, and chatting about whatever y'all are chatting about, and thinking that you are learning when you're really just consuming all of their experiences and internalizing it as your own. So I'm going to say that again. Thinking you are learning when you are actually just consuming. What's the difference? Learning means you took in information. You took in information. You checked where it came from. You made sure it was solid. And now it is actually useful to you, like a credible source. When you're writing your dissertations or your essays for college or whatever, you want to make sure you have credible resources, academically backed resources, right? Where is this information coming from? And is it useful to the purpose that you are trying to use this information for? Consuming means you took in information, full stop. Like someone said, the sky is purple, and now to you, the sky is purple. No check, no verification. It just entered your brain, and now you think you know something. And then you go and tell the next person and the next person and the next person the same thing. And the scary part, they feel exactly the same, right? People internalize both of those ways of receiving information, credible or non credible, as exactly the same. And that's why we see this so big on social media where people get duped all the time on false information, right? And it spreads and it tarnishes reputations. And it's like, wait, was that even accurate? Right. And then someone actually does the due diligence to check, is this even accurate? And it turns out to be completely false. And then now everyone's apologizing. And then there's controversy around it even more because it's like, oh, are you just trying to cover it up? Is it really, So we see this play out within our communities. We see this play out in our virtual communities, right? Like on social media. But bad information and good information feel identical when you receive them. And your brain does not flag it, right? It just stores it, right? So when you walk around thinking you know how something works and you make decisions based on that, and you do not find out it was wrong until something goes sideways. I've seen this play out with money more times than I can count. People come in with beliefs about investing, about debt, about credit, about retirement, and they're just not accurate. And it doesn't make them, stupid or uninformed or lazy, right? Like it doesn't make them any of those things. They just never had anyone to teach them how to check their sources. And that's the disservice. Nobody taught us that, right? We know how to find credible academic resources and all of those things, but are we doing that for the real decisions that matter? So we're going to do that and we're going to fix that today together. I want to talk about the world we're living in right now because it's significant to the argument. And we have more access to information than any generation in history. We have more access to information, more podcasts, more videos, more articles, more posts, more books, more courses, more free information. You can learn about literally anything in under 5 minutes. And now, arguably, this revolution of AI, it's even faster. And that sounds great, right? But it comes with a problem and it also comes with a responsibility. But the problem means more access does not mean more accuracy. And again, we're seeing that with AI, right? We're getting a lot of information really quickly. Now the question is it accurate? Right now, anyone can get on camera and tell you how to invest your money. Finfluencers. Anyone can make a graphic that looks official and post it. Claude, GenSpark, Copilot. Anyone could start a podcast and sound confident. Confidence is not credibility. A big following is not a qualification. And going viral does not make something true. And when it comes to money, that matters a lot because the wrong information about investing, about taxes, about debt, and about how to build wealth, it does not just make you feel bad. It costs you real money. And arguably, it's fattening the pockets of others. I want to give you a real example about what this looks like. So let's say someone watches a video. The person in it seems knowledgeable. They talk fast. They use the right words. They say this is how you build wealth, right? I call this personality like the salesperson, right? They talk really, really fast. They sound really, really good. They use very simple sentences so that you can quickly grasp what they're saying. And then they use like an emotional hook on it. So like it sparks your emotion to make sure that you act really fast. And it sounds good. So you take it in and maybe you share with a friend, maybe you start doing what they said, but you never asked, who is this person? What are their actual credentials? Where did they get this information? Does this apply to my situation? Is this even legal? Is this even accurate? And those questions feel like extra work, right? Because we want things really good fast. 30 seconds. So, like, you are being paranoid. They are not extra work. They are the work, right? This person has 2 million followers. This person has like 260,000 views. Like, one of these people had to do the work. The 3 seconds it takes to receive information is not the same as understanding it. And it is definitely not the same as verifying it. So let me tell you what a credible source actually looks like, because I think people hear that phrase and it sounds fancy and it's super not. A credible source is just a source you can actually trust. And here's how you know. First, who wrote it or said it? Do they have real expertise in a specific area? Not general knowledge, specific. A cardiologist is not the right source for tax advice, right? A social media influencer is not the right source for an investment strategy. And even if they seem smart, that doesn't always mean that they're credible, right? Because there's also biases that we have to take into consideration. And I talk about this conversation of biases in my behavioral economics courses when teaching personal finance, but there's a bunch of biases that even our first responders experience. Very qualified individuals, very educated, right? But there are some experience or things that just happen within our brain that cause us to mess up. It's life. We're human. So second, can you find where they got their information? A good source shows their work. They say where the data came from. They name the study, the report, the institution. If someone gives you a statistic with no source, that is a red flag. Third, has anyone else checked it? Peer-reviewed research means other experts read it and pushed back on it before it was published. That process weeds out a lot of bad information. This is interesting. When I was going for my master's degree, we were doing a capstone project, and some of the stuff we were reading was just like, what? And these are credible, like academically backed, peer-reviewed articles and people doing their dissertation for their PhDs. Like, this was, academic research work. And some of the stuff we were reading, like, that's not accurate anymore. We can't use this, right, for our argument, but it still weeds out a lot of bad information. And not everything needs to be peer reviewed, but the bigger the claim, the more scrutiny it should have behind it. And fourth, is it current? Old information can be wrong information. And that's the experience that we had as a capstone team, where it's like a lot of the information that we're trying to leverage right now to make an argument in 2025 or 2026 is old. It's 20 years ago, right? Like, so much transformation has happened, so much change has happened, so much things have, evolved over time. And this just does not prove our point. So laws change, markets change, and what was true 10 years ago may not be true today, especially in finance. Especially in finance. Like, I have an episode talking about the woman's evolution in finance, right? Like, in our history, like specifically women's history with finances and how that impacts how we show up within our financial journey. So I'll link that below so that y'all can also, if y'all interested, y'all can go in and check that episode out. But now let me get into some specific examples of sources that generally hold up. So books written by people with real credentials and experience in their field. Not every book, but books where you can verify who wrote it and why they are qualified. Government sources, the IRS, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is the CFPB, the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Census Bureau. These are not exciting, but they are accurate and they are free. So there's a lot of free information, right? And there are a lot of credible resources that are fighting to push their stuff in front of you because they're getting pushed back by the false information. So research organizations, places like the Pew Research Center, Brookings, FINRA, Investor Education Foundation, organizations that publish data with their methodology visible, and credentialed professionals who are transparent about what they know and what they don't. And I will never come to you about something that I don't know. I'm very transparent and be like, yo, I just don't know about that. But I could find the answer for you, or I could find a few answers for you. And that was always my perspective as a financial advisor, was like, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to let you know some options that I think may work for you in this particular predicament that will help you accomplish your goals. But ultimately, you are the driver. You're driving the car, you're in the front seat, and you have the ultimate say to figure out if this is something that you want to move forward with, because you know your situation better than anyone else. A good financial advisor, a CPA, an attorney in their area of practice, people who are licensed and held accountable for what they tell you, right? Like one of the most regulated industries is finance. Like no one can go on social media if you are a licensed financial advisor and give you advice. Red flag. So now let me tell you what generally does not hold up. Anonymous social media posts, viral graphics with no sources, podcasts where the host sounds sure but was not has like no verifiable background. Your cousin who knows about investing but cannot explain why, and the person in your network who always has a hot take but no receipts. We all get that one person in our group. So I'm not saying those people have nothing to offer. I'm just simply saying that do not let them be your source on anything you're about to make a major decision from. There is a difference between a conversation starter and a foundation to build on, and know which one you are getting. Now, we need to get specific because this is different depending on where you came from. If you're a first generation, if you grew up in a neighborhood like mine, if your parents were doing the best they could, but could not always give you the financial roadmap because nobody gave it to them either, this section is going to be for you. So, here's the truth. A lot of the information that circulates in our communities is the information that survived in those communities. And not all of it is right. Some of it was never right to begin with. And some of it was right for a specific time or situation that no longer exists. And some of it was put there intentionally or not to keep us from moving up or to keep us safe, to keep us under the radar. That is not a conspiracy. That is just history. And think about the things people in our communities have believed about money, about banks, about investing, about what is realistic for someone from where we come from. Some of those beliefs keep us safe. Some of them held us back. And it is hard to tell the difference when those beliefs are all you have ever known. I get it. I was there. I'm still working through a lot of those beliefs myself. So I also know what it's like to get the education, to sit in the rooms that were not built for people like me, to learn the formal language of money, and then to come back to my community and see the gap clearly for the first time. That gap is real and it is not your fault. It exists, but you are responsible for what you do about it now. And what you do about it now is this: you stop accepting information just because it came from someone close to you. You love them and you still verify it. I love my mother. My mother is my heart. Nobody can tell me nothing about my mother. However, she ain't always right. Specific, like when I was a financial professional and I was starting my financial advisor career, she thought that I was taking financial surveys. Ma, what I need to take financial surveys for? What's that going to do for me? Right? But lack of information, lack of knowledge about the industry, lack of knowing kind of like my vision and where I'm trying to go. She's not wrong, but she's not ill-willed or ill-intentioned, but she was definitely wrong in telling people I'm doing financial surveys. That's not what I was doing. So you stop dismissing information just because it came from an institution or a book or a source that feels distant from your world. Distance does not mean wrong. It just means you were never introduced to it. Get introduced. Get familiarized. You start building your knowledge base on something solid because the foundation matters, especially when the thing you are building is your financial future. Let me give you some real patterns I've seen in my work, not specific clients, just things that come up again and again. Pattern one: people who were told that investing is gambling, so they never started. They watch years go by, years of potential compound growth gone. And when I ask where they got that belief, they usually cannot name a specific source. They just say, oh, I always knew it. It was just what people said. And pattern two: people who believed that they had to be debt free before they could invest. So they spent years putting every dollar towards debt and never started building wealth at the same time. There are situations where that makes sense and there are situations where it does not. But they never got the full picture because the person who told them that only knew part of their story. They didn't know the full picture. Remember, I told you, I'm going to give you some options that you could sit with, that I hope that you go and verify. Go do your research. Go figure out what's best for you, right? You know your full story. I don't. I only know what you told me. Pattern three: people who thought their credit score did not really matter until they needed a loan. So they ignored it. And when they needed it, they did not have it. Credit scores affect more than loans. They affect your insurance rate, your apartment application, sometimes even your job. But nobody told them that, so they found out too late. Pattern four: people who move money around based on something they saw on social media. No research, no professional input, just a post that seemed convincing. Some of them were fine. Some of them lost money they could not afford to lose. None of these people were reckless. They were working with what they had. Some of these people and some of these patterns are you and me. Problem was what they had was not enough and they did not know it. And that information does not announce itself. It just shows up later in your bank account and your credit report and the opportunities you did not take because someone told you not to. I had this friend that asked me about Forex back in the day. And I was like, I don't really see how people are making money from this. Like, it's very risky, totally up to you. But, like, I don't really see this like doing much. And back then, Forex had like this community and it was like, it kind of gave like Ponzi scheme, right? Like, yes, Forex is a thing and yes, you can trade on the market, but like the way that people were really becoming successful upon it was like recruiting people. So like That was the real money and vibe that they were trying to promote in that time and in that moment. So then, because Forex is a real thing, right? And I'm in finance, so like I'm always trying to learn different things. Someone was teaching me Forex, and I was just trying to figure out what is really the vibe with this and like the pips and all this stuff, right? So trying to figure it out, learning it. And this particular friend got so upset at me. He was like, "You told me that this wasn't going to be successful and you're here learning it." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Hold on. Time out. You misunderstood what I said. You misinterpreted my information. And at the end of the day, you have your own free will to go and do whatever you want to do, in which you went ahead and did it anyway. So why is it so concerning about the comments that I made about it when you look at now, was this like 6 years later from that moment? You can't find not one of those Ponzi schemes around, right? Like I wasn't inaccurate about the situation. But Forex is still around though. It's a way that people trade. It's an investing mechanism. But that model and the way that those things were being promoted and people were actually monetizing off of those things was totally totally not a viable moment. So let's talk about what to actually do with all of this because I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to give you something useful. The habit is simple. It is called jot it down. Here's how it works. At the end of the day, if you felt like you learned something, write it down. One sentence, whatever it is. If you're a journaler, jot it in your journal, put it in your notes in your phone. However you want to do this, go ahead and do it that way. Um, but again, at the end of the day, if you felt like you learned something, write it down. One sentence, whatever it is. Then answer 3 questions. Question 1, where did I learn this? Be specific, not just online or from a video. Name the source. What was the account, the article, the book, the person? Question 2, why is that source credible on this specific topic? What makes them qualified to speak on this? And what is their background? What are their credentials? Do they show where they get their information from? And then question 3, can I verify this somewhere else? Is there a second source, a different source that backs this up? Somewhere with no stake in whether you believe it. That's it. 3 questions. Takes maybe 2 minutes a day. And some days you will do this and the answer will be clear. And some days you will sit there and realize you have no idea where you actually learned that. What you just wrote down, you just know it from somewhere. And that's the one to further investigate, right? Not say, oh my God, I got to totally throw that idea out. No, but like I can do a little bit of research in a bed on the couch. Not because it is definitely wrong, but because you deserve to know whether it is right. Think about how much time you spend protecting other things, locking your phone, checking your bank statements, reading a contract before you sign it. Hopefully you're doing that. Your knowledge base deserves the same protection because your decisions come from what you know and your life is built from your decisions. Spend 2 minutes a day on this, give it 2 weeks, see what you find out about what you actually know versus what you thought you knew. And let me bring this all the way back to money because this is Master Your Fin Life, right? And we do have to talk about money to some extent because this is what the show is about. Here's a chain I want you to understand. You have beliefs about money, what is possible for you, what is too risky, what is realistic, and what rich people know that you don't. Those beliefs came from somewhere, and they came from what you were told, what you saw, what you absorbed growing up, what you heard at the kitchen table, or on the block, or from the people who raised you. And those beliefs drive your decisions, whether you invest or you don't, whether you negotiate your salary or you don't, and whether you open that account or put it off for another year. If the information that built those beliefs were wrong, your decisions are built on a shaky foundation. You will not always be able to trace the problem back to the source, but that's not the goal, right? You will just feel stuck or behind or like you're working super hard and not getting ahead. Staying a student is not a soft habit, it is a financial strategy. The people who build real wealth, regardless of where they started, tend to be obsessive about the quality of their information. They read, they go to primary sources, they ask questions, they verify before they act. They do not just accept something because it sounds right. And I do want to emphasize that they're still talking to people within their networks to try to piece the story together. Right? So that means you actually have to talk about money. And that's why we have this podcast, right? To normalize the conversation about money and to help you figure out and get comfortable and find ways to integrate money conversations within your own community. That is not something only certain people can do. It is a skill and a skill can be built. For us, the ones who grew up without a financial advisor at the kitchen table, without a parent who can explain how compound interest works or what a W-2 actually means or why your credit score follows you everywhere, we have to build that infrastructure ourselves. And the foundation of that infrastructure is knowing where your information comes from and whether it deserves to be there in the first place. All right. I want to do something a little different here. I'm going to name some things people commonly believe about money, and I'm going to tell you whether it is true or false or more complicated than the way it is usually said. Ready? Let's go. Renting is throwing money away. More complicated. Renting makes sense in a lot of situations. Buying a home is not automatically the smart move for everyone. It depends on your market, your stability, your timeline, and your financial position. Anyone who says renting is always a waste has not done the math on what home ownership actually costs. You need a lot of money to start investing. False. You can start with a very small amount. Many brokerage accounts have no minimum. The bigger issue is not starting. Time in the market matters. Small amounts invested early can grow significantly over time due to compound interest. Credit cards are bad. They're so bad. More complicated. A credit card used responsibly, meaning you pay it off in full each month, can build your credit and come with real benefits. A credit card used to spend money you do not have with a balance that collects interest can set you back. The card is not the problem, behavior is. The stock market is only for rich people. False. This is one of the beliefs that has kept a lot of people from building wealth. Anyone with access to a brokerage or a retirement account can participate. If you are contributing to your 401k or your 403b, you are investing in the market. You should be paying attention to it. The wealth gap exists in part because this belief kept certain communities on the sidelines for decades. You should pay off all your debt before you save anything. More complicated. It depends on the type of debt, the interest rate, and whether you have any emergency cushion. High interest debt like credit cards should generally be addressed aggressively. Low interest debt like federal student loans may not need to be rushed. Always get clarity on the specifics before applying a blanket rule of you should pay off all your debt before you save anything. Because a rainy day gonna come and life be lifing, regardless of how much debt you have. If you make more money, you will be fine. Just make more money. Just work really, really hard. False. Income is not the same as wealth. Plenty of high earners are just as broke as the rest of us because they spend everything they make. It's expensive to look rich. The gap between what you earn and what you keep is what builds financial stability. And you could make a lot and still have nothing to show for it. We call that lifestyle inflation, and it is very common, especially now with social media. Talking about money is so rude, as my son would say. You're so rude, mom. You're so rude. False. This belief has cost people more than they realize. Not talking about money means you do not know what other people in your field are earning. How are you supposed to negotiate for yourself? It means you cannot learn from others' financial experiences. It means money stays a mystery instead of becoming something you understand. And we're not normalizing the conversation because talking about money is so rude. Nah, every single one of those came from somewhere, and most people have never stopped to ask where. Let me wrap this up. Here's what I want you to take from today. Stopping learning is a problem. We know that. But thinking you are learning when you are actually just consuming is just as dangerous. Maybe more dangerous, arguably, depending on your environment. So at least when you don't know something, you can go and find it out. But if what you think you know is from Pook you may got to second guess whether you know what you know. So the real trap is thinking you have already handled it. The antidote is simple. Be a student for real, not just in the vibe sense. Actually check your sources, actually ask where information came from, actually build your knowledge based on things that can hold weight. Do the 3-question habit, write down what you learned, ask where it came from, ask why that source is credible, and ask if you can verify it somewhere else. 2 minutes, that's all it takes. And you do that consistently over time, your decisions change. Your relationship with money changes, your confidence changes, not because you have more money quite yet, but because you finally trust what you know and the integrity of the information that you are repeating to yourself and that are influencing decisions that you make on a daily basis. You have worked too hard to let bad information be the thing that slows you down. You came too far for that. Stay curious, stay a student, and be very intentional about who and what you let teach you. I am Lexi Victoria. This is Master Your Fin Life. Thank you for allowing me to teach you and for showing up for not just yourself today, but also for me. I'll see you in the next one.